They say power is lost through weakness, but that's not true. Power is lost through emotion. One outburst, one moment of pride, one careless reaction, and everything a man has built can turn to dust. Because in that instant, he's no longer thinking, he's feeling. And the man who feels can be controlled. The world doesn't need chains to enslave you anymore. It just needs to make you angry, make you jealous, make you care too much. That's how modern power works, not through domination, but through manipulation. The strongest mind isn't the loudest voice or the boldest heart. It's the one that stays still while everyone else burns. Machiavelli saw this long before the age of algorithms. He watched rulers lose kingdoms over insults. He watched leaders crumble, not from defeat, but from emotion. He realized something most people still don't. The one who controls your emotions controls you. Look around. Every headline is bait. Every post is a provocation. Every argument is a trap laid for your reaction. And when you take the bait, when you respond in anger, fear, or outrage, you're not acting out of power. You're performing your own obedience. That's the invisible leash of the modern age. Not censorship, not violence, emotion. So the question is no longer who's in control. The question is who controls how you feel. Because once you master that, no one, no ruler, no system, no insult can ever rule you again. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to break down how Machiavelli understood emotional control, how he used it to outthink enemies, command loyalty, and stay untouchable in chaos. You'll learn how emotion becomes a weapon, how to spot when it's being used against you, and how to build the kind of composure that makes people fear your silence more than your rage. By the end of this video, you won't just see emotion differently, you'll wield it differently. Let's begin. Somewhere along the way, weakness started calling itself authenticity. Men began to confuse emotional honesty with emotional exposure, as if spilling every feeling made them deep, as if pain made them profound. Society rewarded it. Speak your truth, they said. Be vulnerable, they said. But here's the hidden message behind that modern gospel. Be easy to read. It is easy to control. Emotion has become a religion, and men are worshiping at its altar without realizing it. Scroll through your feed. Every headline, every story, every influencer is preaching one sermon. Feel more, feel outrage, feel empathy, feel sadness, feel connection. The system doesn't want you thinking, it wants you to react. Because a thinking man is dangerous. But an emotional man? He's profitable, he's predictable, he's programmable. The modern world has learned something the princes of the Renaissance already knew. Emotion is the easiest way to rule the masses. You don't need an army to control a man. You just need his outrage. You don't need a cage. You just need his guilt. And if you can make him proud of his emotions, make him believe that they define him, then he'll never question the leash around his neck. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago when he wrote about the power of illusion. He said that men are more moved by appearances than by truth. In other words, they don't need facts. They need feelings. You don't have to convince them with logic, only with emotion. The one who shapes what they feel controls what they believe. So look closely at the world around you. You're not being informed, you're being emotionally conditioned. Every breaking news story is bait. Every controversy is a hook. Every algorithm knows exactly which outrage to feed you next, because it's not designed to educate you. It's designed to own your attention. And the price of that attention is your focus, your composure, your power. Most men are pawns in this emotional economy. They mistake volatility for depth, sensitivity for strength. But all it really means is that they've traded sovereignty for sympathy. You were told emotion makes you human, but the truth is, it makes you predictable. And in a world built on manipulation, predictability is the first step toward defeat. Power doesn't come from expressing every emotion you feel. It comes from understanding every emotion that tries to control you and choosing silence instead. So if you want to rise above the noise, start here. Stop reacting, stop performing. Stop mistaking feeling for thinking. The world worships emotion because emotional men are slaves to it. You will not be. Next, we'll dissect the machinery behind it, the biology of control, and reveal why your own body is the first enemy you must conquer. Your greatest enemy lives inside your skin. It's not the man who mocks you. It's not the world that resists you. It's the ancient wiring in your brain, the one that reacts before it thinks. Every emotion you feel, fear, anger, shame, desire, was built for a different world. A world of predators, cold nights, and survival. Back then, reacting fast kept you alive. But now, reacting fast gets you played. Your biology doesn't understand modern power games. It only understands survival. So when you feel threatened, even by words, rejection, or failure, your body floods with the same chemicals it once used to escape lions. Cortisol, adrenaline, the fight or flight storm. You clench your jaw, your pulse races, your vision narrows, and while your body prepares for battle, your judgment disappears. That's what manipulators count on. They don't need to overpower you. They just need to make you emotional. Trigger the right hormone cocktail and you'll destroy yourself for them. You'll say something reckless, reveal something personal, sign a deal you shouldn't, apologize when you weren't wrong. Every master manipulator knows this. Control the emotion, control the man. Machiavelli warned rulers about this exact thing. He said, "A man who cannot master his nature will be mastered by it." He understood that the battlefield isn't outside, it's internal. If your biology dictates your behavior, you're not a strategist, you're a puppet. Think about how emotion hijacks power. Fear makes you hesitate. Anger makes you impulsive. Love makes you blind. Guilt makes you obedient. And pride makes you careless. Every emotion is a string waiting for someone smarter to pull. That's why coldness isn't cruelty. It's calibration. It's the art of pausing between impulse and action. It's saying, "I feel this," and then asking, "Who benefits if I show it?" That question alone separates the ruler from the ruled. Psychologists now confirm what Machiavelli already practiced. The human mind has two systems. One is fast, emotional, reactive, the animal. The other is slow, rational, calculating, the strategist. Most people live and die in the first. But the ones who rise, the rulers, the tacticians, the kings, they operate from the second. They know emotion will always knock on the door, but they never let it drive the carriage. Here's the secret. Emotion is energy, but raw energy without direction becomes chaos. You can't erase your instincts. You must weaponize them. Anger becomes discipline. Fear becomes alertness. Desire becomes drive. Every emotion has a higher form. The weak drown in their feelings. The strong refine them into a strategy. Next time you feel provoked, someone disrespects you, someone tests you, remember this. That surge of emotion isn't power, it's a chemical trick. Your opponent doesn't need to hit you. He just needs to make you hit yourself. When you control your biology, you stop being human in the ordinary sense. You become something rarer. A man who can stand still while everyone else burns. A man who can think when everyone else reacts. A man no longer governed by nature, but by design. And that's where real dominance begins, not by defeating others, but by silencing the chaos within. No tyrant ever needed chains when fear would do the job. No seducer ever needed beauty when attention was enough. And no manipulator ever needed force? Only your feelings. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't control you with power. It controls you with emotion. Every great manipulator, from ancient courtiers to modern media strategists, understands one principle. People don't move because of logic. They move because of feeling. Once you trigger the right emotion, you can guide any man to any decision and make him believe it was his own. That's why every kingdom, every empire, every government, and every corporation runs on emotional engineering. They don't sell products, they sell desire. They don't give you truth, they give you fear. They don't need to silence you, they just need to make you outraged enough to silence yourself.
It's the same playbook, refined over centuries. Machiavelli hinted at it in The Prince. Men are moved more by fear of punishment than by hope of reward. Modern society perfected it. Every headline, every trend, every ideological war you see online is powered by the same old instinct: fear, envy, pride, the longing. Look at how the game is played. They use fear to make you obedient. They use outrage to keep you distracted. They use guilt to make you compliant. And they use hope, the sweetest poison of all, to keep you coming back for more. Once emotion takes over, logic shuts down. That's the exact moment they win. You think you're acting out of conviction, but you're just being steered. You think you're fighting for justice, but you're feeding their algorithm. You think you're rebelling, but your rebellion was predicted, modeled, and monetized. That's why the calm man terrifies manipulators. He doesn't give them an entry point. They throw fear, he doesn't flinch. They offer temptation, he doesn't reach. They insult, he doesn't react. And suddenly, the game breaks. Silence is not passive in this world. It's resistance. Because silence kills the manipulator's power source, your reaction. Look closely at politics, relationships, media, even friendships. The patterns are the same. Every manipulator studies the same target, your emotional trigger map. What makes you feel small? What makes you feel seen? What makes you angry enough to forget reason? And once they find it, they don't need to argue with you anymore. They just need to press the right button. That's why detachment isn't apathy, it's armor. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding every time someone pokes your ego. The manipulator's greatest fear isn't exposure, it's indifference. Because when you no longer respond, you're no longer controlled. When you stop reacting, they lose access to your mind. You can't out-talk a manipulator. You can't out-feel them. They live in that battlefield, but you can outweight them, outwatch them, out-silence them. Emotion is their language. Composure is your weapon. When you learn to speak less, pause longer, and act only with intention, the manipulators fade because their power depends on your participation. They will call you cold. They will call you distant. They will say you've changed. And they'll be right, because the moment you stop reacting to their world, you begin to build your own. Detachment isn't born, it's built. It's not a switch you flip. It's a muscle you forge through repetition, restraint, and silence. Most men try to be calm only when the storm hits. That's why they fail. The time to train detachment isn't in chaos, it's in peace. You practice when no one's testing you, so that when they do, you don't flinch. Here's the truth most people don't want to face. You can't destroy emotion. You can only reprogram your response to it. Emotion itself is neutral. It's information. It's a signal from the body saying something matters. The mistake is believing that because something matters, you must react. Detachment breaks that link. It creates the space between stimulus and response. And in that space, a man becomes dangerous. Machiavelli would call this the art of governance, because every man is his own kingdom, and the first rebellion to crush is inside yourself. He wrote that a ruler must learn how not to be good, meaning he must learn to act against his instincts when reason demands it. That's detachment, the ability to act not from emotion, but from calculation. So how do you train it? Start with observation. Watch yourself. When emotion rises, don't resist it. Dissect it. When anger hits, ask, what exactly am I protecting? When fear comes, ask, what story am I telling myself about loss? When pride burns, ask, what weakness did it expose? Every time you question an emotion, it weakens its grip. You've pulled it from the body into the mind, from impulse into awareness. Then comes restraint. Every emotion wants an outlet, a word, a gesture, an action. Deny it once, then again, then again. You'll feel the tension in your chest. That's the old self dying. The silence that follows, that's control being born. It's not easy. The modern man is addicted to expression. He tweets his rage, posts his sadness, texts his desire. He can't sit still with a single unspoken feeling, but you will, because silence turns emotion into energy, and energy withheld becomes power. Next comes distance. Not emotional numbness, but perspective. The Stoics called it the view from above. Imagine your anger as a storm from miles away. You see the lightning, you hear the thunder, but you're not in it anymore. That's detachment. It's the mental shift from I am angry to I feel anger, from I am afraid to I notice fear. The first makes you a slave, the second makes you sovereign. Even science backs this up. Neuroscientists found that labeling emotions, literally saying I feel anger instead of I am angry, lowers activity in the amygdala, the brain's emotional center. Machiavelli didn't have fMRI scans, but he knew it intuitively. He understood that the mind, when trained, can bend the body's chaos into order. And finally, practice silence. Every time you speak from emotion, you leak energy. Every time you act without clarity, you surrender position. So don't rush to reply. Don't rush to explain. Wait until your voice belongs to your mind again, not your nerves. That's how fearlessness is built, not by killing fear, but by mastering timing. Remember this, detachment isn't coldness, it's warmth under control. It's the man who feels everything but shows nothing until it serves his purpose. That's not apathy, that's precision. In a world screaming for reactions, the man who doesn't flinch becomes a god, because he's the only one still thinking. The world mistakes calm for weakness. They see the man who doesn't rush, who doesn't bark back, who doesn't take the bait, and they think he's passive. But calm is not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of power. Because calm men are dangerous in ways the loud never understand. While everyone else is reacting, they're reading. While others are defending themselves, they're observing. While others burn energy explaining, apologizing, and pleading to be understood, the calm man sits back and learns everything he needs to know about his opponents. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must never let others see his heart. The moment they know what you love, what you fear, what you need, they can rule you. That's why the calm man always wins. He gives nothing away. His silence becomes the blank page where everyone else projects their assumptions, and in doing so, they expose themselves. Calmness is control made visible. It doesn't shout, it doesn't flinch, it bends the room quietly. Think of a courtroom. The lawyer who argues least but waits for the perfect question, that's the one who turns the jury. Think of a general in chaos, smoke, fire, noise, yet his hands don't tremble. His soldiers look at him and feel steadier just by watching him. That's leadership born from calm. Even in the street fights of life, business, love, confrontation, the calm man dictates tempo. He moves slower than others expect, speaks less than others want, and feels less than others assume. Every delay is a move, every silence is a mirror, and the more the world tries to read him, the more it reveals itself. Psychology calls this emotional asymmetry, the dynamic where one person's calmness destabilizes the other's control. When you refuse to mirror someone's emotion, they lose rhythm. Anger unreturned turns into confusion. Mockery unanswered turns into insecurity. Manipulation ignored turns into weakness. That's the invisible war of composure. And most people lose it without even realizing they were playing. This is why the emotionless man rises in every hierarchy. In business, he's the executive who never panics in a crisis. In relationships, he's the one who doesn't chase validation. In negotiation, he's the one who never reveals desperation. He wins not by out-talking or out-fighting, but by outlasting. There's a certain gravity to him, a sense that nothing external can move him. People respect that, even if they can't explain why. It's not charisma, it's composure. Charisma attracts, composure commands. But here's the paradox. The emotionless man still feels deeply. He just channels emotion differently. Fear becomes focus. Pain becomes fuel. Love becomes patience. He doesn't kill emotion, he refines it. When others chase drama, he chases silence. When others explode, he inhales. When others react, he calculates. He lives in delay, in the half-second between impulse and action, and that's where all power hides. The calm man wins because he never plays the emotional game others expect. You can't bait him, you can't rush him, and you can't read him. He's operating on a different frequency, one that turns chaos into clarity. And while others are still trying to make him react, he's already chosen his move. In every interaction, one person sets the emotional tone, and it's almost always the calm one. That's the law.
The most composed man in the room decides the rules of the encounter. And once you understand that, you stop trying to dominate others. You simply stop being dominated. So next time someone tries to provoke you, don't fight the urge to react. Observe it. Smile slightly. Say less. Move slower. Because the man who moves last moves best. That's the emotionless edge. The power to make others reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. The strength to act when emotion would have made you weak. And the quiet confidence that makes the loudest room fall silent. Emotion isn't your enemy. It's raw data. The problem is, most men never learn how to read it. They let it steer them, crash them, and then blame the world for the wreckage. But emotion, when mastered, is the most precise navigation system a strategist can have. Machiavelli never said to eliminate emotion. He said to govern it. He understood that the ruler who feels nothing becomes cruel, but the ruler who feels too much becomes weak. The art lies in the middle, to feel completely but act selectively. This is where power truly begins, not by erasing emotion, but by translating it. Take fear, for example. Most men freeze in it. They imagine all that can go wrong, and that imagination becomes their prison. But to a strategist, fear is reconnaissance. It reveals where your weaknesses are. It shows you what you value most. When you sit with fear without running, it turns into clarity. You begin to see what must be fortified, what must be faced, and what must be abandoned. Or take anger. Uncontrolled, it's a fire that burns your credibility. But directed, it's propulsion. When you let it pass through discipline, anger becomes momentum. It becomes fuel for precision instead of chaos. That's what Napoleon meant when he said, "The greatest general is the one who can turn his passions into calculation." Even love, the emotion most men think makes them weak, can be weaponized through discipline. Because love in its pure form is focus, it's devotion. It's the willingness to sacrifice distraction for something that matters. But when you attach it to validation or dependency, it devours you. So instead of asking, "Who do I love?" ask, "What am I willing to love even when no one sees it?" That's purpose, love stripped of ego. Machiavelli's genius wasn't coldness, it was awareness. He didn't reject emotion, he studied it like a map. He watched men fight, fall, and rise, all because they were slaves to feeling. He learned that if you can predict emotion, you can predict behavior. And if you can master emotion, yours and theirs, you can predict outcomes. That's what makes composure a form of psychological warfare.
Most people broadcast their inner state. You can see it in their tone, their eyes, their body language. A Machiavellian doesn't. He stays still long enough to let others reveal everything, their anger, their envy, their fear. Then he uses it, not out of malice, but out of mastery. You can do the same, not to manipulate, but to lead. When someone yells, you don't yell back, you study. When someone flatters you, you don't bask, you question. When someone betrays you, you don't retaliate, you remember. That's emotional strategy. It's patience disguised as power. You begin to operate from a higher layer of perception, where emotion stops being reaction and becomes information flow. You don't suppress it, you translate it. You ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Is this fear showing me where I'm unprepared? Is this jealousy revealing what I secretly desire? Is this anger showing me where I've given away control? Each feeling becomes a cipher, a clue pointing toward truth. And once you understand that, emotion stops ruling you, it starts serving you. You'll see why most people live predictable lives, because their feelings are predictable. Trigger them with fear, they hide. Feed them with pride, they chase. Insult them, they explode. Praise them, they obey. But when you master emotional translation, no one can puppeteer you again. You can walk through manipulation, chaos, and temptation untouched. Because every feeling you have, every rise of heat, every pull of the gut, becomes another signal you've already learned to read. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." Emotion is not a trap once you stop confusing it with truth. It's a compass, but only in the hands of the man who knows how to read it. The world burns louder every year. Every headline screams for your reaction. Every platform monetizes your outrage. Every interaction tests your composure. Modern society rewards the impulsive, but history remembers the stoic. To stay cold in a burning world is not apathy, it's mastery. It's the ability to remain unmoved while everyone else is enslaved by noise. And that is where true power lives, not in dominance, but in discipline. Machiavelli understood this before it was fashionable to talk about self-control. He wrote during an age of blood, betrayal, and shifting loyalties, where one wrong emotion could get you killed. A prince who reacted from anger would wage the wrong war. A prince who acted from guilt would trust the wrong ally. So he learned to feel everything and show nothing. That is the Stoic prince, the archetype of composure under fire. You can see the same pattern repeated through time. Marcus Aurelius leading a collapsing empire, yet writing calmly in his journal. If it's endurable, then endure it. Churchill, during bombings, cigar in hand, saying, "Fear is a reaction, courage is a decision." Even in modern life, the men who rise, CEOs, strategists, generals, are the ones who never lose the inner stillness. Because when the world loses its mind, people will follow the man who hasn't. So how do you build that kind of stillness? You train for chaos. You put yourself in friction, not comfort. You expose yourself to pressure until it no longer shocks you. Silence becomes your weapon. Routine becomes your armor. Perspective becomes your fortress. Because the man who doesn't need peace to stay calm carries peace with him everywhere. This is how you become untouchable in the modern age. The Stoic prince doesn't seek attention. He earns gravity. He doesn't rush to prove, argue, or convince. He moves like time, steady, patient, unstoppable. And when everyone else is reacting, he's still observing. The crowd will call him emotionless, but what they don't understand is that he feels more than anyone. He's just disciplined enough not to leak it. That's why his presence unsettles people. It exposes their instability. They mistake his silence for superiority, but it's actually focus. Every man can cultivate it. You start small. You sit still when you want to scroll. You breathe when you want to argue. You walk away when you want to prove your point. You say nothing when silence will speak louder. And one day, without realizing it, you stop reacting. The Stoic prince isn't born. He's forged in boredom, frustration, and discipline. And in a world that rewards emotional exhibition, restraint becomes rebellion. That's why Stoicism today isn't old philosophy, it's power strategy. Because when you can stay calm in a world built to provoke you, you win every invisible battle before it starts. You stop being controlled by outrage. You stop dancing to the rhythm of distraction. You become a fixed point in a chaotic universe, and the world rearranges itself around you. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." He didn't mean terror. He meant control over yourself first so that others cannot control you. And that's how you stay cold in a burning world, not by running from the fire, but by walking through it unburned. You live in an age where emotion is currency, outrage is profitable, distraction is designed, and attention is the new battlefield. Every notification is a test of your self-control. Every opinion that provokes you is a small trap to make you react, to make you bleed focus. And that's why this philosophy isn't ancient, it's urgent. Being calm, detached, and strategic isn't some aesthetic choice. It's survival. If you can stay composed while the world loses itself in hysteria, you become rare, and rarity commands power. Start small. Don't announce every move you make. Don't explain every thought you have. Observe more than you speak. When something provokes you, resist the reflex to respond. When something flatters you, resist the urge to believe it. In both moments, test yourself. Can I stay unmoved? Train your calm like a muscle. Let silence be your first language. Schedule time to vanish. No phone, no noise, no validation. And watch how your thoughts sharpen when they're not being drowned. The man who can think without audience becomes unstoppable.